It looks sort of like a swamp monster, but it's from the sewer. And its name is Sewer Sue. I think it's disgusting. Dead Fred. He's dead. And there's blood splattered on the ground.
What if one of the most beloved toys of the 1980s had an evil twin? A grotesque, snot-nosed, troublemaking sibling that didn't just horrify parents, but also sparked a multi-million-dollar legal battle that would go down in toy history. This is the story of how a set of rebellious trading cards became a cultural phenomenon, and why the very controversy that fueled their meteoric rise was the same thing that caused their dramatic downfall. Now, to understand the sheer explosive impact of the Garbage Pail Kids, you first have to understand the scene. The early 1980s weren't just about big hair and synth pop. It was the era of the Cabbage Patch Kid. These weren't just dolls, they were a cultural reset. Created by art student Javier Roberts, the plush, soft-sculptured dolls were first sold at craft fairs as little people. Each one was unique and came with its own birth certificate and adoption papers, a marketing masterstroke that turned buying a toy into an emotional event.
Dear Grandma and Grandpa, I'm pleased to announce the arrival of Arnold Clyde. That's you!
Adopting a real Cabbage Patch Kid is a joy for the whole family.
Arnold Clyde!
I can't wait to see him!
They're here!
Look, genuine adoption papers and birth certificates.
You'll even get a birthday card.
Arnold Clyde!
Oh, look, your dimple.
Your smile.
Your hair.
Your glasses.
Definitely our great-grandson.
The Cabbage Patch Kids from Coleco.
So when toy giant Coleco licensed them for mass production in 1982, what happened next wasn't just a fad, but full-blown national hysteria. By Christmas of 1983, the demand was so overwhelming that it sparked what are now known as the Cabbage Patch Riots. Stores that got a shipment of just a few hundred dolls were swarmed by thousands of desperate parents. News reports from the time are surreal, showing absolute chaos, stampedes, fistfights, and property damage. They were wholesome, they were individual, and they were the single most sought-after toy in America. The stage was perfectly set for a parody. Enter the Topps Company. Founded in 1938, Topps was a legend in the trading card world, famous for its baseball cards and, maybe more importantly, for its wacky packages. A sticker series from the late 60s and 70s that brilliantly parodied household products. By the mid-80s, wacky packages were on a break, and Topps was hunting for its next big hit. Now, they saw the Cabbage Patch mania and first approached the doll's parent company, Original Appalachian Artworks, or OAA, for a licensing deal to make Cabbage Patch-themed cards. But OAA saw their dolls as high-end creations and felt that bubblegum cards were too low-end for their brand, so they flatly refused. Now, that rejection would turn out to be a massive mistake. In response, Topps greenlit a parody series. The idea actually began as a single unreleased Wacky Packages sticker, but now it was getting its own full series. The project was creatively guided by underground art legends Art Spiegelman and Mark Newgarden. Now, Spiegelman, who would later win a Pulitzer Prize for his graphic novel Mouse, had been a consultant with Topps for years. The mission was simple: take the wholesome, cutesy Cabbage Patch aesthetic and flip it completely on its head. In 1985, the first series of Garbage Pail Kids hit the shelves. Primarily illustrated by artist John Pound, these sticker cards were an absolute masterclass in subversive humor. Each card featured a character with a comical deformity or suffering some terrible fate, all with a punny, alliterative name. The iconic Atom Bomb, a kid with a mushroom cloud blowing out of his head, became the franchise's poster boy. Characters like Nasty Nick, a vampire baby, and Leaky Lindsay were instant hits with kids. And to double down on collectability, each piece of art was used for two cards, an A and a B version, with different names like Atom Bomb's twin, Blasted Billy. And the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Kids who felt left out of the Cabbage Patch craze, especially boys, now had their own collectible to obsess over. Almost as fast as they rose in popularity, the backlash started. Parents, teachers, and school administrators were horrified. They didn't see the cards as satire, but as glorifications of violence and antisocial behavior. Characters like Electric Bill, a child getting electrocuted, or Schizo Fran, a girl with two heads, were seen as deeply inappropriate for young audiences. Topps, for its part, knew the controversy was the best free advertising they could ever ask for. Every news report about how disgusting the cards were, every school that banned them only made them cooler and more desirable to kids. Being caught with a Garbage Pail Kid card was a badge of honor, a small act of rebellion in a wax pack. And while all that controversy was great for sales, it also drew the unwanted attention of the very company Topps was making fun of. So in May of 1986, Original Appalachian Artworks, the creators of Cabbage Patch Kids, filed a $30 million lawsuit against Topps, alleging copyright and trademark infringement. OAA argued that Garbage Pail Kids weren't a parody protected by fair use, but blatant piracy. They pointed to the similar chubby-cheeked, doll-like features and, most critically, the logo design, which used a similar arc and font to the Cabbage Patch Kids logo. Topps argued that the cards were satire, but the court wasn't completely on their side. In August 1986, a federal judge issued an injunction to halt the production of the cards, famously stating that there is a fine line between parody and piracy, and that the main purpose of the cards seemed to be an attempt to make money, not social commentary. Facing a potentially huge judgment against them, Topps decided to settle out of court. The terms of the settlement were a critical blow. Topps had to pay OAA a reported $7 million. And more importantly, they were forced to make significant changes to the design of the Garbage Pail Kids. The logo had to be changed from its familiar arc to a straight, flat banner. The characters themselves had to be redesigned to look less like soft, sculpted Cabbage Patch dolls. Post-lawsuit model sheets showed the new style. The kids were now depicted as hard plastic dolls, often with visible cracks and joints. The very design elements that made them such a perfect parody were now legally off-limits. The lawsuit and the design changes marked the beginning of the end for the original Garbage Pail Kids craze. The new, more plastic-looking kids just weren't as popular with collectors or casual buyers. And by 1987, the brand was already showing signs of fatigue. A live-action Garbage Pail Kids movie was released and was a spectacular failure, both critically and financially. An animated series was also produced, but it was pulled from the CBS schedule before it ever even aired in the United States due to intense pressure from parent groups. Sales kept dwindling throughout 1987 and 1988. And between 1985 and 1988, Topps had released an incredible 15 series of the cards, flooding the market. But by the time the 16th series was ready to go, interest had fallen so sharply that Topps pulled the plug entirely. The original run of Garbage Pail Kids officially ended in 1988. The fad had run its course. The legal battle had neutered their design, the market was oversaturated. And kids, well, as they always do, moved on to the next big thing. But the story doesn't end there. Like a lot of 80s icons, the Garbage Pail Kids never truly died. They just went into hibernation. The original cards became prized collector's items, a nostalgic touchstone for a generation. Many of the original artists, like John Pound and Tom Bunk, who often went uncredited at the time, finally started to get recognition for their groundbreaking work. And recognizing that enduring appeal, Topps resurrected the brand in 2003 with an all-new series. And since then, they've continued to release new sets, often parodying modern pop culture, from reality TV stars to political figures. There have been collaborations with brands like Funko, Santa Cruz Skateboards, and even Netflix. These gross, rebellious little characters had become a permanent, if filthy, part of the pop culture landscape. And for many who grew up with them, they were more than just stickers. They were a first taste of counterculture, a chance to push back against the clean, commercialized world of mainstream toys. They were proof that not everything had to be taken so seriously, and that sometimes there's nothing more fun than being a little bit gross. The story of Garbage Pail Kids is a perfect storm of creativity, rebellion, and commerce. They rose from a simple act of defiance, captured the imaginations of millions of kids by being everything their parents hated, and then fell victim to the very legal system their controversy had provoked. Today, they stand as a monument to that specific moment in the 80s when a group of underground artists managed to sneak their subversive, snot-soaked humor onto every schoolyard in America. So, what do you think? Were the Garbage Pail Kids a harmless fad, or were they genuinely a corrupting influence? The answer probably lies somewhere in between, and that's exactly what made them unforgettable.